I'm on the yellow line following the rules, getting dropped basically because the crosswind's so bad.
You're eating
and
wind.
Everyone else is like in the draft on the opposite, like they're in the oncoming lane. Like it was like I was the only one following the rules. I was pissed. I'm not gonna lie. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Coaches on Gouges.
Being slouches.
So like a Peter Sagan intro.
The Sagan intro.
We're working on this like Simpsons thing where the intro changes like every single time. What's up, everybody? So today we are going to talk about the golden rules of racing as a team, specifically bike racing.
Yep, bike racing as a team.
Yep. We'll get to the topic. I'm Coach Dale Sanford.
I am Coach Bryant Funston. We are the co-founders of BPC Performance Coaching, where we specialize in helping time-crunched athletes optimize their busy schedules so they can maximize their athletic performance. Every BPC coach is trained in our 5 Pillars coaching system, which has been developed over the last decade through our work with athletes of all ages and ability levels, from fresh off couches like these to world championship competitors. You can find out more about BPC by going to buildpeakcompete.com, checking us out on Facebook and the YouTube at Build Peak Compete, or all up on that Instagram at BPC Performance.
Kaplawi.
Bam. Next week, I'm not even using the phone.
Promise?
Yep. Heard it here first. No phone next week. It's all stored up in this noggin.
Good deal. All right. So we're going to get to the topic of these golden rules, the commandments of bike racing.
Yep.
But first, shout-outs.
Shout-outs.
There's some good ones.
There are some good ones.
I'll start it off. We don't often give shout-outs to the people on the couch unless they're a guest. But Coach B-Fun over here and our buddy Taylor Herron went to the Tennessee State Criterium Championships and both took the jersey in the Cat 1 and Cat 2 races. And then our buddy Taylor ended up with the TBRA overall for the Cat 2 points.
Yeah, that was a great weekend. Like, you know, in your mind, like going over there, we were hoping main goal just get Taylor the TBRA overall jersey, so getting the points he needed for that because he was only 1 point up going into the last race of the season essentially for TBRA. And we were like, bonus would be, you know, if you were able to get the jersey in the process. Didn't even really consider like it working out where both of us would have the jersey, but we got into the right break and rolled it. So yeah, it was a fun race. Didn't go as well the next day.
Yeah.
They threw hills on the course the next day, which that was mean.
Problem.
That was mean.
All right, my other one here, I've got a couple other ones. Tim Lynn got the top spot.
Timmy Linney, good work.
Top spot at the Yeoju half. It's the Great Man. They call it Great Man. Half triathlon in South Korea. Had a good race. He was a little slower than last year, but he said there was no current. Usually what they do is they truck you to like 1.2 miles upstream, and they make the swim intentionally longer. So it's normally like where it would be like 2K almost. It's like 22 or 2300 because they're trying to counteract the time.
Oh, okay.
But they said there was no current. So it's just a longer swim.
That stinks.
But had a solid bike and probably the best run he's had at that race. And he also, this is a testament of like the improvements don't always happen like in the splits, swim, bike, and run. One of the biggest things that he told me was that he finished the race and the next day he was like fine. Like he wasn't like smashed for a few days. He kind of recovered more similarly to like a Olympic distance race where it took him like 24 hours and he was fine.
Excellent.
So that's a great sign that his fitness is coming across.
Cool.
Dragonfly local try was last weekend. Chris Watts, age group overall, first place. Heather Nichols.
That's a strong name for someone who has
jealous.
bike riding as part of the discipline.
Heather Nichols, first age group. Jamie Bailey took third overall female. And I got to give a shout out to Grayson Edwards, who came and killed us all, 16 years old. So I'm begging his parents to keep him in the sport because he's as strong as he is on like the bike right now. Like that's usually for younger kids is like the hardest thing for them to improve until they're like 18 or older, like 20 in their 20s. But dude can swim and bike and run, and he's got a pretty good future ahead of him if he stays with it and just stays consistent. So shout out to Grayson there. Nice.
I got a Lee Rustin. Got to give her a shout out. She didn't get the jersey, which was kind of the goal over at the state crit, but she rode one of the most aggressive races I've seen her ride because she knew a sprint finish wasn't going to suit her. So the goal was for her to try to get away, and she did her best and laid it all out there. So shout out to her, and good lucks. I've got good lucks.
Shout out to Stitch.
Yeah, rocking this sweet jersey, man.
This old school BPC jersey. This one's what, 10, 11 years old? 10 years old?
Yep, that's the original.
Yeah.
Good lucks. We got Dale Christie and Dr. Downing heading out to New Mexico to throw down at the 40K. So good luck to them out there. And then obviously all our people.
That's the record challenge, right?
Yeah. And then obviously all the people racing Worlds.
Yeah, our we got a couple people in Lausanne, Philip Young and Tony Gambrell are in Lausanne racing this weekend. A bunch of other friends. Kirsten Sass is racing the para race as well as her own sprint and Olympic distance races. Our buddy Jordan Green's over there racing. Bunch of people. Bubba Hayes over there for the sprint race. So
and awesome. Rich Wu up at Gateway this weekend.
Yep, Gateway.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right, I guess
let's hop to it.
We burned enough time. We've done shout outs. The shout at, we haven't done a shout at in a while. We were reminded.
Yeah.
Shout at is to our lack of sock sponsorship.
Yeah, really. Come on.
If you're listening on the podcast, you can't see that we are sitting on couches, and usually we have nice fancy socks on.
Nope.
But no one
haven't
wants
picked
to give
up
us
a sock sponsor yet, so
here we are.
Barefoot. We're actually looking for a Manny Petty sponsor.
Manny Petty sponsor.
Or just Petty.
Petty.
No. Yeah. All right, so the topic of discussion today is the golden rules for racing as a team. A lot of people made the joke in the post that a lot of people, including most Cat 5s, don't really realize that cycling is a team sport.
Yep.
But, most of the time, the team effort can far outweigh any individual unless that individual is out of this world or doped to the gills.
Yeah, right, exactly. There's so much strategy involved in bike racing, and to do that, just from an individual level, but then to blend that and bring a team together to work towards, getting one person the best result possible. I mean, there's a lot of strategy. So these are kind of our golden rules on kind of the do's and don'ts. There's always going to be situations where you'd violate these rules.
Yeah, these rules are based on amateur racing with normal like teams like varied fitnesses and no team cars or race radios or things where you just get information all the time and you don't have to think about what's going on in the race. So the number one, we'll just get to it. Number one, never work on the front to pull back a teammate.
Yes, there's nothing more demoralizing than you being off the front. So you've attacked, you've either gotten into the lead group or possibly are up solo. There's nothing worse than looking back and seeing your teammate wasting their energy trying to
giving everyone else a free ride.
Exactly. So I don't know. There's the only time you would pull a teammate back is if you know that teammate is is either gonna get dropped from that break or has zero chance of winning, and you need to reshuffle the deck. But besides that,
Very seldom does that happen.
Yeah. Besides that, let other people waste their energy bringing it back.
And that rule alone spawns into like most of the rest of the rules.
Yep.
So the second part of that is only be on the front of the main on the main pack or the race if you are working to pull back a breakaway that you missed, or for a teammate to reshuffle the deck, so to speak.
Yep.
Or if you're working to string the race out so a teammate can launch an attack or a move or whatever. A lot of times that is useful energy because when you're making the race safer, but also making it easier for that person to like get out of the group. Sometimes when it's like 3 and 4 wide, it's really hard to launch an attack from a good spot.
Exactly.
Because you're probably having to get near the yellow line to do it. So
there's situations where it's almost impossible to really move up if it's just this log jam, yellow line to the side of the road to the shoulder. Sometimes people move up in the shoulder, but the other thing, if you're not just stringing it out to allow a teammate to move up or launch an attack, but towards the finish of a race, it could be you working to string it out to keep the pace high, so your teammate can hold position and sprint from a good spot, assuming you have a good sprinter on your team.
Yeah, I mean the other obviously is if you are launching an attack or sprinting for the win or preem or whatever, that's an understandable reason to be on or off the front.
Great time to have your face in the wind.
Yep. Yeah, working to bridge to a group, and in that case, hopefully you're solo. It's a solo bridge where you're not dragging other people with you. That could create worse odds for your team in the breakaway. If you miss the move, sometimes it's good to have a compatriot in trying to get across to a lead group. But as long as it's not somebody is stronger than you,
exactly,
and can win the race in general.
This is a good one. It's okay to have your face in the wind if you are off the front solo. You're just up there hammering away.
That's I've been there.
Yeah.
That's a strategy I've used several times.
It's a good and a bad place to be, really.
It is.
It's a lonely spot.
There's a lot of trust in the team behind you when you're off the front by yourself.
Exactly.
Trusting them to follow the rest of these rules.
Yep. Yeah, if you've got a team having a strong team that abides by these rules greatly increases your chance of either sticking it from a solo breakaway or a breakaway of any sort.
Yeah.
Having a big strong team helps enable you to get to have success in a breakaway.
Yeah. And the last one is like if you are in a breakaway and the odds are good, it's a favorable breakaway for your team, you can drive the front a little bit to but we'll get into that as well. In our breakaway rule here in a second.
Yeah, so taking pulls in the breakaway. Typically what happens if you get into a break, usually it ends up being, if there's more than like 5 or 6 people, it usually goes straight into a rotating pace line. Smaller groups, you end up taking a little bit longer pulls and kind of stay in that single line. But yeah, if the breakaway is favorable, obviously it's A-okay for you to be on the front when you're doing your share of the workload. Which moves us to rule number 3.
If you're in the breakaway or the lead group, and that means the pack, the main field is behind you. Do not work so hard that you get yourself dropped from that breakaway.
Yes.
It's embarrassing. I can't say that I've never been there, but it is embarrassing to get in a breakaway and get dropped. And the worst thing is you're dropped. Now you're in no man's land. Your team doesn't know that you're been dropped from the breakaway. You may not even have another person in that breakaway. So the break is just getting farther and farther away, with them either maybe trying to slow things up.
Yeah, your team may be back there trying to slow things up still, which is a bad situation because by the time you get back there, that gap's even larger.
Yeah. So don't work so hard that you blow yourself up and get dropped from the breakaway. If you know that you don't probably belong in that breakaway, do zero work. If you do get dropped from the breakaway, hit the brakes.
Exactly.
Throw the parachute and basically stop on the side of the road so that the team can be notified as soon as possible that you've been dropped from the break.
That's a crucial point. Now, again, 95% of the time, that's what you do. But if it's a situation where the gap's big enough and you're close to the end of the race where there's going to be there's no chance that the main group's going to be able to get back up to the lead group, then you want to stay on the gas and try to survive and get to the finish line before the pack catches you.
That's where you just do nothing and sit on the back. And if they want to attack you or take you off the back, that's fine. But you just tell them, like, I'm done. Like, you're going to get nothing out of me. You can either keep with the smooth rotation or you can do whatever. If I fall off, I fall off.
Yeah, you kind of have to be careful. Like, so this happened in the road race just this past weekend. I got into the breakaway unintentionally. The pack split, and I was in the front. And I'm like, that's not really where I wanted to be. I was working for Taylor. I wanted Taylor to be in the lead move because he was sitting first overall in the Omnium, and 3 teammates were in that move. So there was 7 of us total at the start. 1 guy ended up getting dropped. So there were 6 of us. 3 of those were teammates. And we had like a minute 30 or so, small field. So that kind of plays into it. But with 3 teammates, it's really easy for them to start taking you off the back. And then you have to bridge back up to the lead. And then the next person takes you off the back, bridge back up. So in this situation, I knew that I wasn't going to win from that break, but I ended up doing like as little work as I could to not have them attacking or taking me off the back and then me have to surge up.
Oh, you can fake it. You can fake it till you make it, that's for sure. All right, so that kind of goes into, we kind of talked, this is kind of rule number 4 here is, if you get in the breakaway or in the lead group, if you realize you're not the strongest person in that group, or the odds, like you were saying, there's 3 teammates in the same in the group, the odds are bad for you. Do zero work, like do zero work, or at least just fake doing some work. Pull through as light as you can to take the workload off of yourself as much as possible.
Which that is a good strategy. Like when I was doing the work I was doing, I was pulling through and I was staying well below my limits. I was only pulling through on sections of the course that suited me best, so like flats, downhills where I was the heaviest guy in the group. But you can almost disrupt a breakaway and by pulling through lighter, by taking pulls that aren't that strong, which would enable, or hopefully enable your teammate or the pack to catch you guys and reshuffle, and then hopefully get, someone who can win up the road.
Yep, absolutely. So rule number 5 goes along with basically rule number 1, the golden rule number 1. If you have a teammate in the break, your team is no longer obligated to do work.
Yeah, it's so exciting when you get a teammate in the break because you're like, whew, nice. I don't have to do anything.
Ooh.
Yep. And you just say, hey, got a teammate up. But what's not nice is when everyone else in the pack is not happy about having missed the breakaway.
Yeah.
And they start launching attacks after attack after attack because your job, which goes into this rule, is to make sure any attack that goes after that either you are on or you have a teammate hitched on to the back of. So you don't want to let any secondary move go that doesn't have you or your teammate getting a free ride up to your other teammates.
Yep. I mean, that's that's kind of one of those things where you have to attach yourself to that move, and then don't get excited because your whole point is to squash that and not to like, if the person wants to drive it and you take you on a free ride, perfect.
Yep.
That's great. You're increasing the odds of your team winning because you've now put another teammate in the breakaway. But you should in no way, shape, or form aid that.
Exactly.
Unless,
you have zero exactly. You have zero obligation to work with a person to get across to your teammate.
Yeah. Unless you get to the point where it's obvious that the gap is so big that you can kind of work with it and get there sooner and spend more time in the break with more people conserving energy.
Yeah.
Like for the rest of the race. So you don't, until that gap is way established by the other person.
Correct.
You do not do it.
And only work with that person if you know you are stronger than them.
Yep.
Because you don't want to help bring a person across who's stronger than you or stronger than your teammate that's already up in the move. You want them to burn as many matches as they can getting across. And if it's someone that you know is going to beat you and your teammate, you don't want them in that lead group. You're better off having them go back. Both of you go back to the main pack. So don't do any work if you know that person is someone who can beat you and your teammate if it came down to a finish.
Yeah. Part of the racing as a team is knowing the other teams.
Oh, exactly.
Competition a bit.
Yeah.
All right. So number 6 here.
Let me add just one more thing to that one.
Yeah.
There may be a situation where you would work with that person if you know that by you getting up to the lead group that it's going to maximize the chance of that breakaway staying away. So if you have a solo teammate off the front that you know is eventually going to fade and not stay out there and it's going to come back to a reshuffle, it may benefit you to do some work after the gap's been established by the other person to get up to your teammate. So now you've got, 2 of the 3 people, but so you got a 67% chance of winning. Whereas if you know your teammate wasn't going to be able to stay off the front by himself, then it's a reshuffle, and who knows what the odds are of winning after that. So I will do some work with someone else to get to a teammate if I know that's going to maximize or the chance of the breakaway actually staying away.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So number 6 here is do not allow any move to go off the front without yourself or your teammate attached. It's kind of part of number 5 there. But once a break is up the road, you don't have to do any work for the pack, but the work that you do is covering attempts to bridge, attacks to going up the road.
This is a
honestly,
reiteration.
Much harder.
Oh, it is. There's a lot of times where it's harder being the person or the people in the back covering attacks.
Most of the time.
While your teammate's up there, like nice, smooth, controlled, steady. Bang train. Troop, troop.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've been on both ends where off the front in a breakaway, rolling smooth with 3, 5, 6 people. And then you get to the end of the race and everybody's like, that was the hardest race ever. It was just nonstop attacks from the field trying to get, because people missed the break, teams missed the break. So that's especially when it gets hard. Not so. I mean, solo riders, they'll try a few times, but teams who miss the break will just constantly try to get up the road, and so you're covering move after move after move while your compadre is up in the break, rolling steady rolling. Yeah, for sure. No, it can be a ton harder to be back there. So that's just a reiteration of Rule 5, basically.
Some to kind of add to this. So right now we've talked a lot about a team, a group, people in the peloton missing the move and attacking. Now what sometimes happens is the group will get organized and will start rotating through. Typically, especially in like a Pro 1-2 style race, if a team gets organized to try to pull a breakaway back or, a mix of teams, if you start working into their line and messing it up, that's not going to be tolerated. So what you would do as a teammate, you don't go in there and start jacking up with the flow of their chase. You sit on the back of that chase. You're getting a free ride. They're working, but you don't actually disrupt that effort. Now, if, say, there's two people at the front doing work, you want to be sitting behind the people who are actually working. And anytime that person pulls off, if they don't slot back in front of you, then now you're second in line. When that person pulls off, then you sit up and slow the pace down or ride like an easy effort, something that is going to be slower than what the breakaway is rolling. But you don't want to start getting into someone else's organized chase. And
don't be a wanker.
Yeah, that would fall under being a wanker.
And blocking and stuff like that, it's talked about, it's frowned upon.
Yep.
You can disrupt by just being in the flow and getting your turn in line and then going easy when it's your turn. That'll disrupt the flow. If people want to work though, don't intentionally get into it and push your way into the move or into the line and
sit up as soon as you get to the front.
Or get three to the front and just sit up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty annoying. But all right, so we're going to move on to rule 7 here.
Number 7.
If you're not a sprinter, and let's be honest, how many people are in the amateur ranks are true sprinters?
I thought I was a sprinter until I moved up the ranks and started going against actual sprinters. So I was like, turns out I'm not. I also thought I was a climber too. Turns out I'm not.
So if you're not a sprinter, don't wait for a bunch sprint. If you want to give your team the biggest odds of winning, the worst thing you can do is just sit in the group leading into the last few K and do nothing and just wait for a bunch sprint when you probably won't even win that anyways. You're just going to make it more dangerous.
Yeah.
And
rarely are you going to see a lead out train work in like the Cat 5, Cat 4, work. Even Cat 3. I think I've seen like 2 organized lead out trains that actually have worked. You see it in the pro races. Yeah, you see it in the pro races because they work on that. Like it's scripted. They know who's going to be pulling to which spot at this many K to go. This person's pulling out. Like they know where they are in the line. They know how hard they have to go. They know when they're peeling off. It's a very scripted thing. That's not something that happens very often in the amateur ranks. So your best thing you could do for a teammate, say it's a Criterium, would be to attack with maybe 2 laps to go, because that's going to serve the purpose of someone else has to burn a match now because they're not going to be on your wheel. So someone's burning a match trying to chase you down. It's stringing out the race as though you're doing a lead out. It's allowing your teammate to hold position without having to work. And if they don't chase you, guess what? You win.
Yeah.
We got Stitch about to fall out from... we put the jersey on on Stitch. I think Stitch is overheating a little bit.
Gotta get the airflow going here.
Got to strip it off there. Look like Tommy Vogler.
Yeah, the best thing you can do for your teammates is make the end of the race safer, or set them up so that they can do a last lap, a last flyer, or actually as the sprinter be in good position to have a wide open road to sprint on.
Number 8, I love this one.
Oh gosh! If you are a new bike racer, listen up.
Yes. No matter how strong you are or you think you are, do not think you are going to just ride the group off your wheel. Not to hate on triathletes at all, but triathletes tend to be pretty renowned for just going to the front I'm going to hold it at 24 and I'm just going to ride folks off my wheel.
I'm with you on that.
Because you have to remember there is that huge advantage of drafting that's going on behind you. I guess a note to make on this: if you're going uphill, and you're a good climber, yes, you can probably go to the front and ride folks off your wheel. But on the flats, on downhills, not
Probably
generally
not.
going to happen where you're just going to...
Unless you're descending like Alaphilippe or something.
Unless you're... Exactly. But most of the time, that is a very poor strategy to just go to the front and hope you ride folks off your wheel.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. That just reminds me of like, I feel like at least once a year, I'm like walking around a race and listening to like some teams talk and like come up with their race strategy. And I always hear the term, let's just go and make the race hard. Let's just go to the front and make the race hard. Mm-hmm. And I just want to like pop in and be like, that's dumb, right? Like you're making the race hard. You're burning yourself up. You're making it way harder possibly on your teammates. Mm-hmm. And you're giving everyone else an easier ride because you're the one doing the work on the front.
Exactly.
It makes no sense.
Yep.
There's no such thing as let's just make the race hard and we'll figure it out later. Mm-hmm. Horrible strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, so much that it's not the strongest person that wins each race. It's the person who's conserved the most, maybe whose teammates have set the race up properly for them, made other teams chase, made other strong riders burn some matches, closing down gaps to your teammates. It's the person who has conserved the most throughout the race that has the watts, the power to throw it down when it actually matters, once everyone else has been worn out. So your goal is to if you're the team leader, so to speak, your goal is to try to hide, conserve, do as little work possible, not show off how strong you are. It's not the person with the highest average power that wins the race. It's the person that's got the legs to go when it's that crucial point in a race. So you got to be patient and you got to save power versus use it.
Absolutely. So the next rule is really, it's kind of a feeling thing. Like if you want to be a good teammate and race as a team, you have an obligation to make sure that you are eating and drinking properly during the race so that you can aid the team when needed instead of bonking out or cramping up. And
especially if you're in the breakaway.
I mean,
you're in the breakaway.
Absolutely.
You don't want to get the old hunger knock late in the old break.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah, that's where you're, I'm sorry, but if you're in a breakaway with me and you're visibly cramping or like asking for food, I'm not going to give it to you.
Dale's not sharing.
Unless it's just me and you.
Yeah.
I've actually been there before where was in a breakaway with one other person for the entire race from the gun.
And that person, I know which race you're talking about, that person had a big team behind. So you wanted him to stay. A
strong team.
Yeah, big, strong. So you wanted him to stay in the break.
Yeah. So in that case, I was giving him feeds.
Yeah.
And asking our feed zone folks to feed him to make sure that he didn't cramp out, bonk out, and then drop back to the group and then start chasing. Mm-hmm. So there's always exceptions to the rule.
Exactly. Last one, number 10.
It's pretty important.
Number 10.
Being a good teammate here.
DFL, and we'll go through what this means, is better than DNF, which is better than DNS.
Yeah.
So Dale, what's DFL?
So dead freaking last.
We're keeping our good
our non-explicit.
Non-explicit. Dead freaking last is better than DNF.
Did not finish.
Which is better than?
Did not start.
Did not start. Yeah, so you got to show up.
Yep.
Toe the line regardless of where your fitness is. Like you playing one small role early in a race, chasing one move, saves a match for a teammate. Yeah, it may mean that you get dropped, which a lot of people, you got to put your ego aside when racing for the team. You get dropped, you get dropped.
I've been dropped in the first 10 miles of a 80-mile race before.
Yeah.
Just because I wasn't the fittest of the, in the group. And I said, well, I'm going to do what I can early because that's when I have it. Mm-hmm. So following moves early and you get dropped and then it's 70 miles solo. You
don't know, but that one match that you caused someone else to burn or that you saved for a teammate could be the difference in your teammate winning or not winning. I mean, so show up, toe the line. Goes into the next one. A DNF is where you do not finish. So you started the race, but you do not finish the race. You either pull yourself or sometimes they will pull you. You can't really control that. But we always encourage our athletes, especially when you're sacrificing, Cat 4, Cat 5, where you're doing 30 to 50 mile probably road races. Don't lose the training stimulus. You're sacrificing racing versus a bigger training day. So don't, if you do get dropped, keep riding. Keep pushing yourself. Use it as a training stimulus. Otherwise, it's really easy to get detrained if you race a lot and are getting dropped.
Yep.
So stay on it, and that is better to have a DNF versus versus a did not start. But even if you're DFL, which is dead freaking last, that's not something to be ashamed of. I mean, that means you kept pushing, you kept going. Some people hate seeing their name at the bottom of the score sheet, the result sheet. But if you worked to help set up your teammate and your teammate gets the win, that's your win as well. So don't get concerned over where you finish, what your place is. We would rather, and you should too, if you're racing with the team, you should rather be DFL than finishing 15th. If when you finish DFL, it got your teammate the win versus your teammate getting 8th.
Yeah.
It's so much better to do everything you can, have the team so committed to trying to get one person the win versus, we had 4 in the top 10, but no one on the podium.
Oh, we had had a race this year where ended up bridging to a move and, was with teammates in the move, and then it came down to the last lap or whatever. And so I basically attacked, which made the chase, set up teammate for the win. And then after I made that
lane. Yes, I remember this.
After I made that move.
Because I was in the break with you.
Yeah, I was trying to be vague about it. After I made that move, I was smoked. Mm-hmm. And so I just kind of was rolling in and got swallowed up by the rest of the field. I think I finished 15th, 16th or something like that, almost last place in the race, but I was in the break.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah.
So, but we got the win, and I think we might have gotten third too or something like that in that race. But, I mean, in my opinion, and we've always set this up, I mean, these rules are basically off of an email that we send out to the teams that we manage
at the start of the year.
Mm-hmm. So that everyone knows that the whole team racing aspect is about team glory versus personal glory. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's nothing to be ashamed of if you help the team get a win or even a really good placing if you actually contributed to it.
Yep.
Now if you got on the race and sat on the back and got dropped, a little different, but you're still getting in a decent training day, which eventually down the season would probably help the team. Mm-hmm.
If you know your fitness isn't going to be good enough to be there near the end to help the team, do something to help the team before you do get dropped. Don't just ride at the back and eventually get tailed off. I mean, move up. Maybe check, if you know you're going to get dropped, make sure your teammates have fluids. If they, and maybe you can give them a bottle. I've actually been saved before in a crit where a teammate came up, told me, he was like, "Hey, I'm not going to be able to finish this. I know I'm not. Is there anything I can do? What do you need me to do before I get dropped?" And just him giving me a water bottle, it was a super hot day, made a huge difference. I mean, so you can play a role. Mm-hmm. And do play a role. Do an attack. Even if it's a weak attack. If you get shelled, you get shelled. It's better than you just falling off the back at some random point in the race and never playing any sort of active role.
Yeah. So that's basically the 10.
Those are our 10.
The 10 commandments.
And what, if you've got, go ahead and weigh in. If anyone's on that wants to weigh in on anything we may have missed from our 10 golden rules or things to add.
We'll throw in some last tips. So if you have anything to add, put it in the comments. But we'll throw in some last tips for actually keeping some solid team tactics into the race. One is that when you do choose to attack, make sure that your attack is from a couple of rows back and not from the front. When you attack from the front, it's really easy for everyone to just jump on your wheel, and you have effectively done nothing but burned a match on yourself.
Yep.
Generally, if you go from a few rows back, it's easier to catch people by surprise, especially the people that are in the best position to follow your move, catch them by surprise, and you create a gap a lot easier, and that gap forces people to work. So make sure that your attacks come from a few rows back. Get ahead of steam. I usually go from about 8th wheel, roll up to maybe 3rd, and then punch it.
Yep. Yeah, you want to have the biggest speed difference between you and the front of the race as you're passing the people on the front.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times you can sit down after you pass the front, like, because you're going 8 miles an hour faster than what they are, sort of thing.
Yeah, a lot of times you don't even have to get out of the saddle.
Then you sit and hammer from there. But you want to be going past that front so fast that they start looking and like, who's going to chase that? Not, oh, he's attacking from the front, let's all follow.
Yeah. Another one is like positioning. Like, always be aware of like where you are, for one, in the pack, and then where your teammates are, because if your whole team is like halfway back in the field and a move goes, you got no one there to cover it. So you need to make sure that you personally are always trying to move up, and that your teammates know that they should always be trying to move up toward the front, or at least have a couple people toward the front, or if you only have one teammate, make sure your one teammate is closer to the front if you're taking a break, so that they're there to cover moves when needed. I mean, it happens all the time where people get shuffled to the back, and you're like, well, what teammate will cover that move? So we got teammates in the field, they'll cover the move. And then you look back and all your teammates are behind you, and you're like 15th wheel, and a move goes and you miss the break.
And now the whole team's got to get up to the front to start working to pull that thing back.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
No. The wind. I mean, this is we could go on a whole nother episode on just playing the wind.
Yeah.
But just know where the wind is, because if you're not conserving energy because you're constantly taking wind to the face, that's not really good for the team, unless you are shielding your golden person.
Exactly.
From the wind to help them conserve energy. That's a valid reason.
Yep.
Especially if you're like moving them up in the group, helping, if it's a crosswind or whatever, letting them take the draft and moving them around.
That is hugely helpful. Yeah. No, that's a big one.
Last two really is make sure you communicate. That's huge. I mean, be honest. That's a big thing. We're in a sport where most of the people on the team are like, don't ever want to show weakness, and always want to be on a good day. And but if you're not feeling it, just be honest, because you are effectively pretty useless if you're like, people think they can count on you, and then you're not there. Yep. When needed. So,
especially if you were pre-decided to be one of the go-to person.
Oh yeah.
You need to let the team know pretty early, like, if you're on a bad day, it happens. And let them know, hey, legs aren't there. This is not my day. Like, how are you feeling? And that's where it's always good to have, not throw all your eggs in one basket. Like, you want to have, if you have a big enough team where you can say, hey, so-and-so's our Dale's our go-to guy today. If he's not feeling it, here's our backup person. Ideally, those two are conserving as much as they can. We always have folks that are like, you're the initial break covering people, or you're trying to get into the early break. And then, communicate along. Having a strategy is great, but once you actually get into the race, things change, things happen, and you need to talk to your teammates. Let them know how you're feeling.
Yeah.
When you're going to attack, so they can be in a good position to either cover stuff that goes, or be at the front to kind of slow things down to allow you to get that gap. Communication's huge.
If you've done any racing with a team, you can talk before the race until you're blue in the face, on your race team strategy. But we all know that a lot of times those go out the window, in the first 5 minutes of the race or 10 minutes of the race. But these rules always, 95% of the time, ring true to increase the odds of that strategy even going and being successful. Last one is just good practice.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Don't cross the yellow line.
Yep.
Just don't do it.
Group rides.
Don't be a jerk.
I've been seeing too much yellow line crossing on group rides. Like, stay right, guys.
Yeah.
Stay, if it's a 2-up line, like middle and right, like stay away from the yellow line. Bad stuff happens.
One, there's rules against it. You'll get dinged. Most of the time these days, the officials out on the road are not very lenient on it at all. So if you get caught, you're probably going to be taken off the back. If you get caught again, you're probably going to be DQ'd. Plus, it's just not safe. It's not.
And don't be the person that attacks across the yellow. I mean, there's times in races where the lead official may have gone up, the moto may have gone up to check on a brake, and you'll see people that use that as an opportunity to violate the yellow line rule to improve position or to attack the group. Don't be that person.
Or or coming into the finish line, when the officials say at the start that it opens up at 500, don't go at 1K out across the yellow line so that you can start your sprint way, way, way too early. That just makes the finishing sprint just more and more dangerous.
This sort of reminds me of Crosswinds Classic a few years ago where
oh my gosh,
we're going through the start-finish line and it's not even the end of the race. But we were getting hit with a mean crosswind.
Horrible crosswind.
And this thing was just blowing up.
From the right.
Just strung out, from the right. So we're like at the yellow line. And we're getting passed by people like going across yellow.
On the left.
On the left. And Dale was so mad. He was so pissed off.
I was pissed. I was pissed because people were cheating.
Yep.
Like I'm on the yellow line following the rules, getting dropped basically because the crosswind's so bad.
You're eating
and
wind.
Everyone else is like in the draft on the opposite, like they're in the oncoming lane. Like it was like I was the only one following the rules. I was pissed. I'm not gonna lie.
All right,
and I did get dropped.
You did. So what did we miss? Feel free to comment. Post, let us know if there's any strategy, team racing strategy tips that we missed that you think should be included. Again, these apply 95% of the time. Maybe it's 80%. I don't know. There's always changes.
We made those statistics up.
Yeah. What is it on? 90% of the time. It works
every time.
Every time. But yeah, there's always going to be situations where it changes on the road, and you may make decisions that violate these rules, but are actually better for the team goal. But follow these, and you're gonna be pretty safe.
Yep. Awesome.
Cool.
Well, we appreciate everyone hanging out, listening, watching. We will catch you guys next time. Adios.
Peace.